Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Pemko, part number 45061 DNB. This is a nylon brush door sweep, they call it, but it could be certainly, and more commonly, in my opinion, used as perimeter gasketing. You might be able to use this on all four sides of the door, actually. We'll get to that. This is a piece of aluminum extrusion with a nylon brush insert at this angle, which is about 30 degrees. Now, an angle style bristle is going to be very typically and commonly used as perimeter gasketing. Using it as a sweep, I think, would be very elegant as well, and we'll talk about that. Using it as a perimeter gasketing is going to be very typically seen installed onto the stop of the frame, and I'll make a quick sketch here. Here's your door opening. So where this material is going to be very typically placed is like this. Okay. A really great and effective way to seal an opening, because what you're having is the advantage of bristle with sidestepping the disadvantage of bristle. And what I mean is this. The advantage of bristle is that you're going to provide a lot of surface area. As this flares out over the face of the door, as the door makes contact with it, it's going to end up looking like this. If my hand is the door, you're going to make lots of contact because of all of those little pieces of nylon that are there. The disadvantage of bristle, of course, approaching it head-on, it's quite stiff and rigid in this orientation. But when it's approached this way, it does an excellent job at making a complete seal. Bristle is also used because it is very durable. And it is known to be effective at eliminating the potential for not only the transmission or the loss of heat, air conditioning, air, it also seals out light as well. And in fact, inspectors are looking on applications like restaurants, and inspectors are very commonly checking as part of a standard inspection the bottom of the door, and if they can see any daylight come in, the logic is so can insects or something else that's not supposed to enter. And bristle is known to do a very good job at sealing against that. It does fatigue and fail with time, as all things do, but it is known to be able to be quite effective at sealing the bottom of the door because of the, several and multiple different strands of nylon that overlap and complete your seal. Used as a door sweep, it would be very effective because of its properties and the fact that if my fingers represented an irregular floor surface, you can see how good of a job it does at just sealing that irregular surface. Okay, you would possibly use a angled sweep like this on the bottom of a exterior door that swings out when you have a threshold that has a slope to it. Whatever your sill condition might be, it might be very appropriate for it to seal like this. Okay, and you are, of course, increasing your surface area as well when you approach the weather stripping and your door pushes against it. You not only have just the eighth of an inch or 3/16 wide footprint of the vinyl or neoprene or silicone or polyurethane that's making contact with the face of the door. This potentially will give you far more. Okay. So it's very effective in that regard. This is a 6-inch sample piece for purposes of the video, and it is in the D finish, the dark bronze finish. This is available in different finishes, and let's pull up and see what those different finishes are. C for clear anodized. You can do this in a clear anodized, or D for dark bronze, as seen here. They can do it in a G for gold anodized, and they can do it in a SN, which is a satin nickel. Satin nickel is, it's an anodized process over aluminum, so it's certainly not going to be a true satin nickel by any stretch. It will, of course, be closer to satin nickel than something like dark bronze, but the term satin nickel does indeed mislead some people because they're expecting something to be satin nickel equal. Satin nickel is really a plating that goes over a solid brass base material. Well, this is aluminum, and it's not plated, so it's going to be complementary, so be mindful of that. It is listed in the site in lots of different lengths. Before we get to that, let's talk about the dimensional properties of the 45061. The overall height of the aluminum holder portion is 3/4 inch. It's going to have a length of bristle of 5/8. And from the bottom portion, when it's installed, it's going to come down to 7/16. The one dimension they don't really give us is from the surface that it's applied onto, you're looking at a total projection of probably somewhere in the range of about, trying to hold that straight on the camera is difficult. I'd say about 3/4 inch. From this surface all the way to here, about 3/4 inch. Okay, so nice coverage that you'll get with this, regardless of where you're using it. You'll also see angle weather strip like this, generally longer length bristle, which Pemko can supply on overhead doors, on the jambs of an overhead door. They will also put it onto the header portion as well, and you'll see in typical common overhead door construction, residential or commercial, you're going to have angled material making contact with the face of the door. Nylon would be especially appropriate for that because the surface of an overhead door, whether it be fiberglass or even wood, it's going to have an irregular surface. Overhead doors are very commonly made of fiberglass, sheet metal that's corrugated, irregular surface. So nylon brush is great for that. Designed to seal the gap between the door and the door jamb. Surface mounted to the frame. They do, if this was the genuine article, it would have holes drilled and slotted in it, and screws would be included. The slotting of the holes is probably about 4 inches from the end, something in that range. And generally, however many feet this is, you'll have one extra hole. So a 3-foot piece ought to have 4 holes. That's a general rule of thumb, not always followed, but general. If you have need for a custom length, by all means let us know by ordering the next longest piece or pieces and simply indicate in the comment field the net length that you'd like for us to cut the material back to. And the reasoning is because it will save you the trouble of not only having to cut it, and be mindful, that portion right there, that's not aluminum, that's steel, the holder for the bristle. So you don't want to cut that on your miter box saw. You'll save the trouble of possibly damaging your tool by not realizing that that's steel. But also that slotted hole. And that slotted hole is there to allow you to tailor the fit or position, the final position of the weather stripping, which is very crucial because you'll very commonly have applications where the frame is a bit kicked out. Maybe the door has a small amount of warp to it, or some sort of condition where the sill is not level, that you might need to tug that weather stripping a little further away or closer to the surface of the door if it's weather stripping, or further lower if it's a door sweep. The point being that is if you have a custom length that you require, order the next longest piece or pieces and indicate in the comment field the net length you'd like for us to cut the material back to. That will certainly save you the trouble of, again, having to cut it, but also drilling a slotted hole. And naturally, drilling slotted holes are not easy. And you do certainly want factory original holes when possible on this material. We've also used this type of weather stripping in unusual applications where we have had wrought iron gate work that they wanted to weather strip. We had doors that were wrought iron that had glass inserts, had a very unusual frame condition. And that unusual circumstance was the client took wrought iron doors and channel steel frames that were never intended. They were probably mid-century construction, where the concept in a factory a large space, tens of thousands of square feet. Well, yeah, 50,000, 100,000 square foot building, where you had all of this metal window work done. And that space may not have been heated to begin with, like you would see in a truck terminal. Generally, the freight area where the trucks back in is an unheated space. So this client repurposed these doors and used them for an entry for a home. Used them as access doors to the rear elevation of the home, to the garden, to the backyard, to that sort of living space. What made it unusual was that two things were occurring. They were single rabbet frames that had the opening had a very, just in our box here, the opening had a very thick stop that was like 3/16 of an inch. Then the door was inset unusual as well. It had a heavy inset, so there was a substantial gap. Having something adhesive inside of here was not really going to be an option. We did not have a stop on the inside here to attach the material to, so the suggestion that was put into play was an item like, and I don't remember the exact part number, but an item like the 45061, where what we did literally was install it upside down with this material, projecting over the stop, because the thickness of the stop was quite compatible with the distance from here down to here. Okay, it did encroach into the space a little bit. However, the client was able to achieve a reasonable amount of weather stripping, so we were able to use it in that regard. Okay, so an interesting way to use angle as well that I thought I would bring to your attention. Now, there is, to conclude this, a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Pemko products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. If you have any questions on the Pemko, part number 45061 DNB, dark bronze angled style bristle weather strip, or any other Pemko product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.